Decent couple of rounds, actually. With regards to the Premier League, obviously. So week 12 and week 11 and week 12 have just happened. Getting into week 13 pretty soon. This weekend. A little bit of a mixed bag from my club. I'm not going to start with them. There's a little bit I want to say about the Man United game that we had on Wednesday. Obviously, we had a victory against Everton on Saturday, which I'll obviously go into as well. But we'll start with Brentford. I think they kicked off match day 11. Brentford versus Brighton. 2-0 to Brentford, to be quite honest. I was a little bit surprised with that score, and I thought Brighton would have at least scored on the day. I had Brighton to nick a draw there at least. But good win for Brentford. I usually think night games are easier for like teams at home, to be quite honest. Something about it being a night games under the lights. Fans are obviously a lot more up for it. So that might have been a factor. I actually don't think Brighton played that badly. But they need a striker. They really do need a striker. But they do create opportunities. They just didn't take them on this occasion. Brentford were obviously a bit more clinical. Another couple of goals for Ivan Toney as well. Having a really good second season at the moment. I think he's on 8 Premier League goals at the minute, or something like that. 7 or 8 goals, some madness. But having a really decent start. 2-0 Brentford. Onto the King Power Stadium. Drab game. Really drab game. Leicester versus Crystal Palace. Not much to say. 0-0 ended. Wasn't really a game of many chances. Pretty boring. Didn't really have any flashpoints, really. It was just a really nothing game, and probably the best result in the end because no team deserved to win it. Zaha actually got taken off in that game as well, which is, your best player being taken off in a game like that tells you everything you need to know. Defences are on top, but for the neutral, not a great game. 0-0 there. Wolverhampton versus Nottingham Forest at Molineux. A lot of people had this one down as a draw, basically bet down to the fact that Wolverhampton pretty much cannot finish and Nottingham Forest are absolutely atrocious defensively at the moment. Wolves nicked the game 1-0. Good victory for them. They'll probably kick on up the table anyway. They had a mid-game against Crystal Palace as well, a midweek game which they lost, but they looked a lot better, a lot more efficient. And when they get the new manager in, I have no doubts they'll be fine. As for Nottingham Forest, there's not much more I can really say to them. Did get a really decent draw in their midweek game, but they need a lot more moving forward. Brennan Johnson hasn't scored in a few games either. I predicted him to have a really decent season. Hasn't really come to the fore as yet. But 1-0 Wolves at Molineux. I did say that will probably end up being a Wolves win anyway. A draw at best for Forest, but Wolverhampton taking the 3 points. Decent game this one. Fulham versus Bournemouth, Craven Cottage. 2-2 it ended. Bournemouth actually took the lead twice, I understand. Bournemouth obviously lost their midweek game to Southampton, which I'll get into a little bit later on. Fulham in really good form. They had a great result yesterday. Actually got Steven Gerrard fired as Aston Villa manager. Really entertaining game this one was, actually. Fast, it was free-flowing. Defensive, absolutely terrible for both teams on this day. But a really decent draw for both. As stated before, Fulham have turned my attention from relegation to, sitting just above sort of 15th, 16th this season. Bournemouth, I still think, are going down. I don't think they have enough, but they're in a good run of form at the moment. And, who's to say that they can't continue a decent momentum, especially at home, where they seem to be a lot tougher to beat. So Gary O'Neill's got them playing some really good football at the minute, which I did not expect, to be quite honest. But fair play to him. Ended 2-2, Craven Cottage, Fulham 2, Bournemouth 2. Tottenham 2, Everton 0 from the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. As I expected it to be, very cagey in the first half. The 3-4-3 formation didn't really work. Everton broke on us twice and almost scored twice. So that could have been embarrassing. Second half, changed it up, went to a 3-5-2. Basuma came on, completely changed the game. Højbjerg and Bentancur got forward a lot more. Højbjerg got the second goal. Kane penalty the first. didn't really get out of second gear, which it's been all season, which obviously will reflect in what I say about the game against Man United a bit later on as well. There needs to be different variations to our style. I feel like we're getting found out quite quickly. Conte blames a lot of the players, but sometimes the tactics that he comes up with just don't do the team he puts out justice. We've got a lot of attacking players, very, very good attacking players. If you've got 5, 6, 7 defenders and 3, 4 attackers go in the opposite direction, just let the attackers be. We don't need to sit in a low block for the full 90 minutes. We had that under Jose. It doesn't make sense. And teams will find us out a lot more if we keep on playing that way. He also needs to sort out the personnel. I don't want to see Emerson Royale in the Tottenham shirt ever again. I think Jed Spence needs a good run out. Matt Doherty's done really well as well. And I think Basuma needs to start more games in the free. I know obviously we went to that against Man United and completely did not play, which I'll get into a bit later on. But this was a win, 2-0 win, pretty easy in the second half. No issues there whatsoever. Southampton won, West Ham won. Typical Sunday type game. Not much really happened. I think the only shocking thing is the fact West Ham didn't pick up all 3 points. Southampton are on a wretched run, or were on a wretched run, up until midweek, where they obviously pulled off a good result against Bournemouth. But they've been on a horrible run and actually have Arsenal this weekend coming into town, who don't actually have the best record there, to be fair. But we'll see what happens there. But 1-1 Southampton versus West Ham. Not really much to sort of harp on about with that game either. It was one of those games that both teams had their one chance and they took them. The rest of the game wasn't really anything to write home about. Kind of boring from what I got anyway. Man United, Newcastle, again, a lot of incident in it. Ronaldo's goal didn't stand. And it's right, it shouldn't have stood. United could have won it at the end with the Rashford header. Newcastle had a couple of chances of their own as well, which they didn't take. So I thought it was a really even game on that. I did mention that actually might be a Man United win, but Newcastle to nick a draw wouldn't be the worst result, and it proved to be that. Newcastle got the draw in the end. Yeah, another team that was lucky over the weekend, Arsenal, went to Ellen Road, Leeds United. Leeds should have got a point out of the game at least. Absolutely battered them for majority of that game. Arsenal's goal was a really good one. But Bukayo Saka on the score sheet again, having a really decent season. But I thought Leeds United offered a little bit more moving forwards. Their press is incredible as well. Should have scored the penalty. Should have had another goal in the game as well. Bamford had a couple of chances. Actually had one chalked off as well for a push, which I understand was good because it was a good decision from the referee and linesman because he actually did give him a nudge before he placed the ball in the back of the net. But that finish was sick regardless. Yeah, feel sorry for Leeds on that. I felt Leeds should have won the game. Arsenal getting found out. We all know Arsenal ain't staying there. We know that. It's just, let them have their fun at the moment. I'll be there to laugh at them all when obviously they're toppling down the table. As it stands, they're currently 4 points clear of everybody at the moment. So we shall see what happens over the course of the next few weeks. But decent win for Arsenal, ended 1-0. Aston Villa 0, Chelsea 2, live from Villa Park. I mentioned Chelsea would be too powerful for Aston Villa. Aston Villa do not, how do I put this nicely? They don't look like a team that can threaten you in any way, shape or form at the moment. Very, very good attackers, but not doing much at the minute. I've always said that Ings and Watkins should start up front, which actually, to its credit, Gerrard, when he was in the job, actually did. And I thought that worked quite well because I thought they pressed Chelsea really well in the first sort of 15, 20 minutes. And then obviously Chelsea sort of, picked up and then got the goals that they needed. Mason Mount, with both the goals, scored a really good free kick as well, though I do blame the goalkeeper for his positioning for the second one. Really, really, really shocking goalkeeping. Aston Villa have now obviously parted ways with Steven Gerrard after the midweek game against Fulham. Deserved, to be honest. Aston Villa have not been good this season. And whoever does come in, I wouldn't say they've got the biggest task, by steering Villa out of where they're at the moment, because I think Villa are good enough to obviously stay up. But at the moment, it's about deciphering what the best 11 is. And I don't think Gerrard had a best 11. He had an 11 that he knew and kept on playing. But that wasn't his best 11 at all. Danny Ings needs to be in that team. Coutinho needs to be in that team. Buendia needs to be in that team because that's where your goals will come from. So a little bit upsetting for the Aston Villa fans, or maybe not, because I do understand they were chanting for him to come out as well yesterday. So are they happy with that sacking? And who do you get in at the moment? I think Pochettino's available. I'm not sure if you take the job, but it's worth asking. We'll see. Watch this space. And then the last game for game week 11, Liverpool versus Manchester City live from Anfield. So I was gassed completely in it. Erling Haaland, I thought, would go there, get a hat trick, slap up Liverpool. Had a lot of injuries, a lot of first team players out, and they didn't concede a goal. Liverpool actually bossed them from many facets of that game. Manchester City, for what they are, were very, very bland. Some of their phases are incredible to watch. I like the way they switch. I like their press as well, but they were very bland up top. Phil Foden did try. Haaland did try, had a couple of chances, half chances, I suppose. Also had a goal disallowed for a foul on Fabinho from Haaland. But Liverpool got the decisive goal in the end. Salah was on one all game, deserved to get the man of the match. Really, really cool finish. Liverpool seemed to be back. They had a win again midweek as well, Liverpool. So back-to-back wins. I think that's the first time that's happened this season for them. So they're slowly climbing up the table. Really, really good win for them, and they needed that for their season to really start. So that's game week 11. We'll go into game week 12, which was obviously the midweek games from Tuesday down to Thursday. We'll start again with Brighton at the Amex. 0-0 against Nottingham Forest. So that's the second time Brighton have been blunted in 2 games. Again, the need for a striker is very, very, very loud at the moment. Nottingham Forest, a really decent draw. Very, very tough place to go. I would have had Brighton all ends up to win that. Didn't do any predictions for this week. I wouldn't have been able to get the video in at any point. It came too quickly. But 0-0 there. Not much to write home about there either. Chances very, very few and far between for Nottingham Forest. Brighton did pepper them pretty much all game, but Nottingham Forest held resolute, pretty much sat back all game. We'll move to Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace versus Wolverhampton Wanderers. Crystal Palace ended up winning 2-1. I actually watched this game. It was a very, very, very good game. Not one-sided at all. Wolverhampton had the better of the first half. Actually went in 1-0 half-time, a Adama Traore header to kick things off. But Crystal Palace picked up Wilfried Zaha and Eberi Eze, who's coming into really good form at the minute, actually, Eze. Wants to get more goals to his name as well, which is obviously very good for him. I rate him. Really, really good player. Very exciting to watch. Zaha, obviously, we know who he is. Michael Elise is a very good player as well. I like what Palace are doing. I do like what Vieira's doing as well. I think Palace are up to 9th in the league now or something like that. How far they can go, I'm not entirely sure. I personally don't think their squad is big enough. But if they keep everybody fit, they will give everybody a game, to be honest. So yeah, Palace 2, Wolverhampton 1 there. Obviously, Arsenal Manchester City was postponed because of Arsenal's midweek Europa League game against PSV, I believe it was. I think Arsenal won that 1-0. Off to the Vitality Stadium. So Bournemouth versus Southampton. Judging by this game, you would have said Bournemouth would have won this game all ends up. Southampton weren't in form, weren't scoring goals. Bournemouth were in the ascendancy a lot. Have been scoring a hatful of goals as well. Not really conceding that many. And Southampton just went there and blunted them. 1-0, Che Adams header. Really good header as well. Bottom corner, goalkeeper very rarely moved. I thought Southampton were actually poor. Only difference there is that Bournemouth were very, very poor, which made Southampton obviously look okay. But it wasn't the best of games, if I'm being really honest. But at this moment in time, points are what's important, and Southampton do have that, so they've got momentum going into this weekend before they play Arsenal. As for Bournemouth, it's a matter of where they go from here, to be quite honest. I did expect the bubble to burst quite quickly. So we'll see with them. I'm not entirely sure where they're going to go from here, but it wasn't the worst beating in the world, and they do, I think, have an away game next, which I'll go into a little bit later on. Anfield, Liverpool 1, West Ham 0. Darwin Núñez on the score sheet. Another great header, actually. He's all right, Núñez. He's all right. 5 out of 10 I'd give him so far for his season, but he seems to be nicking goals. Has scored now. He scored against Arsenal, didn't he? As well, and the loss at the Emirates. Scored against West Ham, a decent West Ham outfit. Liverpool looking a lot more resolute. Seem to have found a little bit of a mojo. popping off shots now, getting really, really big injuries out of the way as well. So they've got a couple of injuries coming back, which is obviously going to help them. Obviously picked up a couple of major ones in Diaz and Jota. Both, I think, are going to miss the World Cup now. Jota definitely. Diaz, I think, may miss it, depending on obviously how serious his injury is. I think I read something like 3 weeks to a month or something, but we'll see. Brentford versus Chelsea. Very, very decent game. I thought Chelsea might go there and nick the 3 points because of the style they play, but Brentford at home under the lights again. Tough nut to crack, and it proved that, to be honest. Mount, who scored a couple of goals, obviously the game before then, didn't really have a sniff. Anything Chelsea did try, Aubameyang didn't really get into the game. Havertz, I think, was getting cussed out by his own fans. It was just long, innit? It was long for them. Brentford, that's a really creditable draw for them as well. Brentford will be fine this season. They usually tend to, obviously, have a good second half to the season as well. As we saw last season, they were really, really good. Tony's in the form of his life as well. So as long as he keeps scoring and Brentford do, keep getting shutouts, they'll climb the table. It's as simple as that. Off to St James's Park. Newcastle 1, Everton 0. Jack Grealish is going to have to take another L on this one. Almiron on the score sheet again. Wicked finish as well. Really good build-up play. Really good cross. Hold up from Joe Linton. And then obviously just put the sort of pass right on the plate for Almiron to guide into the top corner. Really, really, really good finish. And Almiron's actually a really decent player. We're seeing the best of him now. He's been in the Premier League now for about 2-3 years. And we're now starting to see the very best of him. Really, really good player. He's scoring game on game now. I think he's on like 4. He's on like a 4-game streak now of scoring. So it's probably his best goal scoring season up to now. Newcastle in really good form. I'm a little bit sceptical now because I know we got them over the weekend at home. I'll give my prediction on that a little bit later on, but Newcastle are looking very, very good value at the moment. I did say at the start of the season, Newcastle will be in the top 6, top 7 come end of the season. I just think their squad's good enough, and I think Eddie Howe's doing a really good job there, and it's proven to be fruitful. So there we have it. We'll go to Man United at Old Trafford. Man United 2, Tottenham 0. Had nothing for him, to be quite honest. United were just up for it. We weren't. We don't seem to be up for it. This is what Conte was echoing. But at the same time, these are the tactics he's employing. So he's got to take a little bit of blame for that, in my opinion. We went with a 3-5-2, which obviously I thought would have worked because I thought we would have been able to smother United in midfield, especially with no Eriksen. Boy, did we get found out. We got found out. I think we got peppered like 15 shots or something in the first 24 minutes, which is the most by any Premier League team this season. How do you get peppered like that if you're sitting back and being defensive? You should be able to stop that happening, but we just couldn't. And we can't do a low block. This team is not for low blocks. We need to go out and attack. We need to go out and be on the front foot. That's how you win games. So I'm very disappointed, actually, as I'm one of the advocates of the 3-5-2 formation, and Basuma, Højbjerg and Bentancur obviously starting. Team was right. Effort was not there. Just not there. It's disappointing because we always tend to do this when we go to the Old Traffords and the Stamford Bridges and the Emirates. Etihad, we got a decent record. Go to Anfield. We don't turn up. 9 times out of 10, we just don't do it. And I don't know why that is. It's a little bit annoying. I don't really go to these games with much confidence, if I'm being honest with you. It's a matter of hope when it's away from home. At home, I expect to smash every single one of them. But away from home, it's always, I'm not sure. You've got to pick your weeks when you sort of hype about going to one of the sort of other big 4 or 5. So yeah, that's basically what it is. We were shocking. United deserved the win. I've got nothing more to say about it. I think we had like 1 or 2 shots all game, 1 on target from Harry Kane. But other than that, we had nothing for him. Son was anonymous. Perisic was anonymous. Yeah, not much to say. Not one person, apart from Lloris, deserves a mention, to be quite honest with you. And that's just the way it is. But on to the weekend where we play Newcastle. We'll see what happens there. I do anticipate we'll get the win because it is at home. It's going to be tough though. But I'll go with a 2-1 win there. As I stated before, Steven Gerrard got fired right after this. Fulham 3, Aston Villa 0. Live from Craven Cottage. Yeah, it was a beating. It was a beating. And they had Douglas Luiz sent off as well, which didn't help matters. Fulham absolutely battered them from start to finish. Mitrovic again on the score sheet, as he was in midweek. Not much to say. Aston Villa were dreadful. Really, really bad. Fulham again picked up another valuable 3 points at home. Marco Silva seems to have Fulham on absolute bits at the minute. And it's decent to see. I don't have anything against Fulham. I actually like Fulham. But that's a massive, massive result for them. Not so great for Villa. But as I said, Villa do have the tools in order to be a lot better. But it's all about getting their recruitment right and getting the right type of manager. Because clearly Gerrard weren't it. And there you go. Final game of game week 12 is Leicester City versus Leeds United. Leeds actually peppered Leicester for the first part, 20-25 minutes. And then all of a sudden, against the run of play, Leicester took the lead. 1-0. And then Leicester picked up another goal. Soon after that. Leeds pretty toothless. I know Bamford and Rodrigo are up top for them, but didn't really have the same intensity as they did against Arsenal last week. Seemed to get really tired and leggy late on, and Leicester pretty much just picked them off. Game managed and picked up 3 valuable points. Won me over £100 yesterday as well, so thanks for that, Leicester. So yeah, happy with that. That concludes weekday 12. Going into match day 13, a few of the predictions, obviously, with most of the games that are on. So we'll start with the City Ground. Nottingham Forest versus Liverpool tomorrow. I'll go with a Liverpool win. Forest just aren't in form. It's a morning kickoff. Liverpool are in the ascendancy. I do anticipate Liverpool to score about 2 or 3. So we'll go with a 2-3-0 win, Liverpool at Nottingham Forest. Everton versus Crystal Palace, to me, has got a draw written all over it. Everton are very good at home. Crystal Palace not the best away. Everton have just come off 2 losses. Crystal Palace are in really, really good form. But at home are a lot more dangerous than they are away from home. And I just think it'll be a 1-1 draw, to be quite honest with you. I don't see these two being torn sort of away from each other. I think it'll be very cagey as well. I'll go 1-1 for that. Everton Palace. Manchester City versus Brighton. I think Manchester City are going to take out all of their anger at Brighton. Against Brighton at the Etihad. I'll go 4-0, to be honest. I don't see Brighton scoring. They've been blunted the last 2 games. Manchester City at home pretty much score at will. I do see Haaland scoring, again, being on the score sheet. Might be worth a flutter of another hat-trick, depending on the system that's played. Who knows? Ever since I said that he'll get hat-tricks every week, he hasn't scored a hat-trick for the last couple. So maybe. We'll see. I'll have a look at that anyway and see what the odds are for it. And then we've got the evening game of Chelsea versus Manchester United. This is a tough one to call. I had a couple United men get at me as well with regards to the result last game of Newcastle. And I did say at the time that Man United would probably win the game, potentially Newcastle to nick a draw. On this one, I do believe Chelsea get the result against Man United. I'm not saying that because it's Chelsea Man United. And United do actually have a good run of form at Stamford Bridge usually. But I just think Chelsea in this moment, at home, late kickoff again, Graham Potter has a really, really, really good record against United as well. I do see a Chelsea win. I'll go 2-1 for that. On to Sunday, Wolverhampton versus Leicester City. I do see Wolves picking up the 3 points there. Leicester City are just not good away from home. Wolverhampton, I think, will nick a 1-0 win. Aston Villa, Brentford at Villa Park. I think that one's going to be a draw as well. I do think Aston Villa will pick up a draw. 1-1, 2-2 type game for me. Brentford do like to see goals away from home. Aston Villa just aren't very good at the minute, but I feel they will have a bit of a bounce because obviously Gerrard's gone and teams usually tend to play a bit differently when the old regime is out. Southampton versus Arsenal is an interesting one, live from St Mary's. So I say that because Arsenal do not travel well to Southampton at all. I think the last 7 games Arsenal have been there, Southampton have won 4 of them. I think the others have been one Arsenal win and like 2 draws or something like that. I know Southampton have just been better than Arsenal at St Mary's, and I do see something along the lines of that. I want to say a Southampton win. I don't want Arsenal to ever win any games. Of course, I'm going to say it's a Southampton win. But I just think in the form that Arsenal are in at the moment, I do see them picking up a point at least. I will go with 1-1. That's what my head says. I just feel like Arsenal may nick a 2-1 win. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. I'm sticking my neck out on the line for this one. I'll go 1-1 Southampton and hope that they can win it. Leeds United versus Fulham. Again, Leeds United very useful at home. Fulham not the best away from home either, but are scoring a lot of goals. I'll probably be inclined to go with a 2-2 draw there as well. So a lot of draws this weekend, I feel. Leeds United 2, Fulham 2, I'm going to go with. And I do think Mitrovic is getting on the score sheet again. Tottenham Newcastle, I kind of touched on it earlier. Almost feel like it's a must win for us now because of the result against United in midweek. Newcastle in really, really good form at the moment. Could hurt anyone at any time. But we are at home. We have a 100% record there. Haven't lost there yet. And I just think we'll have too much for Newcastle. I am going with a 2-1 win for us. These lot need to stop making me look like a flipping laughing stock, to be quite honest. So give me a damn result, yeah? Tottenham 2, Newcastle 1. Final game of match week 13, West Ham versus Bournemouth. I do think Bournemouth are going to take another L, back-to-back L's. West Ham will pick up at the London Stadium. They have been a lot better at home as well. And I don't see that changing. That is the Monday night football as well. So I do think West Ham under the lights at London Stadium around, 8 o'clock kickoff, they will be picking up 3 points, and I'm going with a 3-0 win for West Ham. So that concludes all of that. Leave comments. I don't get many comments from people. I want to get more comments, get more insight. I don't mind, innit? Criticism, praise, whatever. Put it all on there. Yeah, because you learn from that, to be quite honest with you. End of the day, it's opinions, isn't it? So everyone has them. Not everyone is right all the time. But that is me this week. I will give you another video over the course of the next week or so with the rest of shenanigans. But for now, enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you next week. I'm out.